What's up, guys? So I'm gonna show you my 1990 Toyota Camry that I got for free. Long story short, I had some friends who had this car sitting on their driveway and they were gonna get rid of it and just donate it, but instead I just somehow got in there and said, hey, why don't you just donate it to me, and it'll be well loved and well used. And when I first saw this, obviously you could kind of see the exterior of the car isn't the best condition in terms of paint, but something that stood out was once I saw that odometer, I knew that I wanted this car. It had 113,000 miles on the odometer. An elderly or an elderly person owned it before the person, one of my friends owned it while she was in high school. And yeah, so it was just barely driven, just driven around the city, had a lot of lack of maintenance, and obviously because it's old, it has its own issues in terms of just rubber components and rust. So rubber components just getting older and degrading, right? And rust with, when I was doing the timing belt, bolts were completely shearing off. So here's my quick little review that I wanted to do. I've owned it for maybe a little bit more than a couple months now. So here's my thoughts, and it's an absolute relic to me. Already made some memories in it. It's been my surf car, daily driver, and I had a little bit of a pause of ownership just because I had to do the timing belt and it took me a lot longer than I expected. But here it is. Check her out. All right, so here is the 1990 Toyota Camry in all of its glory. As you can tell, the styling is just old. I mean, I love the boxiness and the straight edges on this car compared to the bubbly era that was more apparent in the late 90s. And especially with the late 90s Camry. So I do appreciate how jagged that front end looks. I mean, obviously you can kind of see that my bottom lip here had some damage, not caused by me, but it's just very basic. I also like that there's a B-pillar window that kind of reminds me of just the Fox Body Mustang. Just always was known for that B-pillar. And then just basic, I mean, it's the Toyota Camry LE, so it came with the cruise control, but also it had power windows, manual adjusting seats, and obviously your automatic seat belts. So even opening the door, you kind of tell just how well built these cars were. Definitely made with a lot less plastic than today's, and its age definitely shows because of the paint, right? But inside, I mean, it's got a classic interior, just simple gauges. You got your temperature, RPM, miles per hour, fuel gauge, has your basic check engine light, all that stuff. Now you go inside. Here, I'm actually gonna make this screen a little bit bigger. So you go inside the car. This thing is absolutely in the way. Now, with this being automatic, I do kind of find it annoying because it tends to choke you. So, when I use this, it's interesting to me that you can just pull the seat like this, seatbelt like that, and it doesn't do anything. So it's almost pointless, this seatbelt contraption, but whatever. Immediate thoughts about the interior is it's very simple, elegant, and well designed. I mean, like I said, with the gauges, it's simple, but also your buttons. Everything feels good. The only thing I didn't like was that these were fading. It's very, I mean, obviously a lot of touches here. With my fan, only the medium and high works, or second to high, whatever, works. AC still works to this day, which is great. But these are my only two settings for either my fan or my AC. The Kenwood stereo replaced your old cassette tape. I like that there's this cool little cup holder. It does hold two. I tend to just put my cup holder in here, or my cups. Usually I'll put right there. 90s cars didn't really have the best cup storage, so whatever, it is what it is. The nice part too with your gear selector, you have it right there, and then right here, it does light up. It tells you when you're on normal and when you have the ECT button. I've never actually used this with the lift for emergency. Everybody that comes in my car and takes a ride just immediately tells me, what is that? I just tell them it's ejectocito. Yeah, I mean, it's just gorgeous. The interior in this thing is absolutely mint. I mean, I would even come to say that it's definitely better than my Land Cruiser, at least the condition of it. Very, very much similar to my 94 in terms of just the analog, the buttons, but in quality and just how well it's kept up. Obviously, this one has 113,000 miles versus my Land Cruiser, who's got 200 and almost 250,000. These are the same as well. And yeah, just these elegant features of, I mean, this feels very, very well built. It's not like a plastic overlay. It feels metal, feels solid. You'd see a little bit of some of the residue or the glue residue coming off here on the armrest. And then, yeah, so always have to have some TP for the road just in case. And then I like that you can lock your glove compartment there. Cruise control is super easy to use. I used these hazards last night when I blew out my tire. Let's go in the back seat. Back seat's actually pretty roomy. Use one of these car cans for storage, but just in really good condition. The blue interior is definitely interesting. You can see a little bit that the blue is, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, it is definitely faded here versus here. Sun obviously has done its damage. So here we are in the back seats of the Camry, as you can tell. Here, let me actually switch sides. You got plenty of room. Headroom is great. Obviously you have more headroom here with the driver and the passenger. But it does feel like just a big aquarium. A lot of windows, a lot of visibility. Don't plan to tint it. I like these unique just window controls in the back. It just feels very 90s. Obviously these seats haven't seen much use. It is a 5-passenger car, so you do have the middle, but you could use this as an armrest. It's rad. I like too that it's got its oh crap handles, and just this interior is just so simple. I feel like they did a lot of things right in terms of just the usability of the car. There wasn't much electronics at the time, obviously, except from what you have here that I upgraded with the radio. But even that, actually I didn't upgrade that. The previous owner did. I would have kept the cassette tape. But even just with the simplicity of it, this is what the 90s were. So I'll give you some of my thoughts, but here's the the view from right in the middle of the back seat, of the interior of the front. Just elegant design. And interior is not falling apart, which is great, especially for how old it is. Toyota Camry LE. Let's open the trunk. It's absolutely huge. I think if I fold these seats down, I would be able to fit, I believe, at least 3 wheels on the rear passenger seats, and then 1 big wheel here. Maybe a spare. I don't know. But just the thought that comes to mind because I have a Land Cruiser and a Tacoma. But yeah, safety wasn't really in mind. At least this is my opinion, or this is what my assumption is. With the back trunk, you could see how thin it is. Nowadays, everything's just covered with plastic for airbags and such, and safety reasons. You can see this, because of that wasn't as much of a priority, how thin it is, right? Obviously, this car was also built, I mean, this is a plastic bumper, but this is all metal. Much harder structure than what was back then. But yeah, don't mind my stuff. This is my daily stuff. I do carry extra belts with me. Sunscreen for surfing, and some oil. But yeah, a pretty huge trunk. Definitely one of my favorite things about this car, because it is a sedan, so it's nice and comfy for fitting 5 people in here, but also it's got some room, and if I ever have to use this space for storage, I can. Alright, so for some of my thoughts, having owned it for 3 months, the quality for this car being 1990 and the fact that I got it for free just makes everything so much sweeter. The little things I love about it are because of its age. I mean, you can see that this corner light is plastic but has not faded, although it's from 1990, and then your headlights are glass. Now, these headlights absolutely suck. Actually, it's better to keep the high beams on so that you could see a little bit better, and nobody even thinks you have high beams on. That's how bad they are. But it's just very well built. Nowadays you see a lot of plastic covers that just fade right away, especially for the headlight. But the little things too. I mean, you have your seats. These are cloth seats, and they've lasted for forever. The transmission and the engine, they're fine. I'll talk about that in a little bit. It's slow. It's got 115 horsepower, I believe, for the 2.0 4-cylinder, but that's fine. It's got its steely wheels that I removed the hubcaps. Might actually put those back on, but they work great. I mean, they do the job of keeping you on the road. Outside of the blowout, I really haven't had any issues. And I just for the age of it, I mean, it looks appropriate that this car would have steelies, and if I was to run it into a curb, it wouldn't even matter. The nice part, they're 14-inch tires, so those tires are super cheap. Now, I do have to do some of the maintenance on it, such as my driver's side CV axle is ripped. I think I showed you guys that earlier. And then my steering rack needs new set of boots too. So a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this engine. You can see that it's a lot easier to work on these vehicles than today's, just because of how big the engine bay is, and it's a lot easier to reach. I just did the timing belt kit with the water pump. I did the alternator. I mean, everything's accessible. You have your distributors right there, your starters right there, right? Like, everything is straightforward, and you don't have to usually move other things. I mean, I had to move this and some of the motor mount here so that I can get to the timing belt, but outside of that, it's pretty straightforward, which makes it nice to work on. And especially for an older vehicle, you're gonna have to work on these a lot more than your newer cars. With all that to say, there are things that I wish it had, that are current to to today's technology with cars. You could tell that it's got a distributor, so it doesn't have that automatic ignition system that today's system has. So if that, you have to set the timing, but that's super easy to do, super nice. And then if that thing ever gets wet, you're kind of screwed. So it's kind of a hit or miss, like a love and hate relationship with how old the technology in this Camry is. But hey, you know, I can't complain, because it gets about 27 miles to the gallon for both city and highway for me, and that's great. So I also replaced all the heater hoses in the back, and some of the other cooling components that go from the throttle body to the here, forgot what that's called, but that's all been taken care of, and so far so good. Now that the timing belt has been done, there's no leaks here, but I am seeing a little bit of a leak right there. Now I'm not sure what that is, because at this point I need to pinpoint, I think, what's back there that's leaking. So hopefully it's not too bad, but it's just kind of the pain of having an old car. Things just break and rubber degrades over time, so you do kind of have to constantly repeat, or maybe not repeat, but have to do maintenance to the car. So with all that to say, I mean, obviously owning an old car, that just comes with it, but easy to reach oil filter right there, and just even the timing belt kit came with the water pump and everything was less than $150. So my goal here is to keep everything Denso, or not Denso, but Toyota. This is a Toyota remanufactured alternator, because if it's lasted this long, nearly or more than 30 years, you might as well just keep the same equipment on it, right? So because you know that it will stand the test of time. But yeah, obviously I carry a lot of parts just in case something does happen to this car, and I'm able to fix it right away. And now that I've done the timing belt, I feel very confident on working on this vehicle compared to how it was 2 months ago. It's pretty easy. Everything's accessible. Now, things do shear off, but especially old bolts, especially where rust can corrode the bolt, but you kind of have to take that. So, yeah, love and hate relationship with this. It's slow, but hey, it gets you from point A to point B just fine. And just got to dial down some of the leaks, figure that out, but it shouldn't be too bad. Even if it's a rear main seal, I think I'm just gonna let it leak, or it might be something else, so we'll see. I haven't found out yet, but I'm just glad I knew that the timing belt was a little bit more of a ticking time bomb. All right, so here are my final thoughts. I just can't beat a car that you can get for free. And so I think, at least for my plan now, is to keep this car as long as I can, run it to the ground. I'm sure I can make some money out of it if I was to sell it, but now that I've put a lot of work into getting it to where it is, not that timing belt is much, but obviously that's time consumption of just researching and looking at educating myself how to do it and how to do it properly so I don't mess up, and just time. Some things become more sentimental, and that's kind of what this car is for me. If I was just to get it for free and just flip it, it wouldn't matter, but now that it's kind of built a little bit of memories of frustration, and also just being able to take it out to the beach and surf with it. I mean, that's something that's like, okay, like I think I could get used to this, especially it gets great gas mileage now that gas prices are more expensive, and car prices actually. So It does the job. The interior is what just sells it for me. So it makes everything so much more, it makes me feel good to drive the car. Now, the outside isn't great, but if you feel great driving it and you inside of it, I think that's kind of at least that's what matters more to me than the outside. And plus, if someone was to ding it, it is what it is, you know. I wouldn't care too much. I mean, I toss my surfboard in there. I don't drive it recklessly, but if something was to happen to it, I'm not too upset. So, but I know that it'll run good. Especially, I've tested the compression, and it's about 175 on each cylinder, and that's without doing the leak down test. So yeah, I feel good about it. I'm excited to take it on many adventures and let you guys know how it goes. Driven it through the heat already, no issues, nothing with the cooling system. Now I just want to test it for some more, maybe not off-roading, but more adventure trips to a lot farther places. So it's done a fair share, about 2-hour trips. That's pretty much the farthest it's done. So yeah, keep you guys updated, see how the build is. I mean, honestly, I'm just gonna keep it stock, but as things come along and I repair stuff, I'm sure I'll update these videos. Well, hope you liked it, and I'm excited to share more of these clips with you guys, and maybe even some of these memories.